All right. Thank you, everyone, again for popping into the Zoop podcast. This is Jordan from Zoop. You can find us streaming every Wednesday on YouTube, on Facebook. If you like the audio version, we're going to be going on Spotify, iTunes. You can find every past episode and this episode there as well. Today's guest is Nick Pitarra. You can see along the cryon here or in the show notes, in the podcast description, the link to Nick's campaign for AX-WIELDER JON. Nick, thank you for coming on the show, man. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
What's up, brother, man? It's been a fun ride. So I'm excited to get to catch up with you, and again, appreciate everything you guys did. We made it a huge campaign, and I think we blew past everything. The P&L, you guys set up a P&L that's like low, medium, high, and I think we over doubled that high. So I feel pretty good about that.
Well, if I had a physical reward, I would be giving you one right now for Zoop's highest grossing campaign of all time so far. So you currently hold that honor, Nick.
No, we're gonna add to it. We're gonna keep beating it. So y'all can come after it if you want, but right now it's right here, baby.
This guy. But speaking of adding to it, so for those who don't know, we started with Nick and AX-WIELDER JON. It was a campaign that we ran last year. It's taken a little bit of time to actually finish the book, which everyone who's backed the campaign to date has gotten a PDF version of the book. They see all the Pitarra goodness that's in there. But because it took so long to really essentially go to print, we're offering people who maybe missed out on the campaign the first time around the opportunity to get in before we go to print. So we're doing a sort of final order cutoff, so to speak, a second chance campaign, if you will, for AX-WIELDER JON. You can see there's a QR code right on the screen. If you're watching this on your computer, just take out your phone, click on that QR code. You can go back the campaign right now. Still amazing rewards left. I'm doing all the talking here, but Nick, for people who don't know about AX-WIELDER JON, sell them on your boy.
Well, I mean, AX-WIELDER JON's my passion project. And I've had people reach out to me and ask me about working with Zoop. It's fantastic. I think we should use some of this time to talk about that. I can kind of just point them to this. But like with AX-WIELDER or anyone that writes me and they say, well, how did you do it or whatever? People generally don't get to read your story. We had a rough cut of ours that we could send out so people could read it early and see the art, and that made a big difference. But a big thing that you got to realize when you're selling a thing on a crowdfunding platform is you got to sell the story of your project. And with mine, I had an easy one where I came up with it when my daughter got sick. AX-WIELDER was a sketch I did, and it kind of meant a lot to me and stuck in my head for a couple years before I started writing the story. And it was this super manly barbarian. He's faceless, and he's cursed to fall in love with the heads of his many victims. So he collects skulls, and it's this whole thing. I think creating the narrative of why you want to make this book, why you want to venture out on your own, why you want to do things your way. And all that is genuine. It's not a lie. Like for me, I do want to call the shots. I don't like asking for work. I never really have had to ask for work. I've been fortunate in that way, but I also don't want to wait around seeing if someone's going to ask me for work. And this way you can make your books, get it out there with a company like Zoop, who's going to help essentially be your PR team and your customer service team and all the things you're not going to want to do. I just think that's a huge benefit and really unleashes you to be the best creative possible and to kind of take the reins of your career and the control. And, you might have issues, and I do. I've got my own personal issues with the big two and all their stuff, and so many, short-sighted moves I think they make. And that used to stress me out because I'm like, where am I going to work next if things aren't going well? Well, now it's like, please fumble the football all you want, because I'll catch it on my end and run with some customers, So that's always been a thing with me is this, this existential dread of like, where's your next gig going to be? As an artist, that always pops up, So, but anyway, there was like something really cool about crowdfunding also, where you get to invert a lot of stuff. Like I have a tendency to overshare my artwork. And when I work with publishers, they're always like, delete that tweet, don't show that off. And it's kind of like you save up all this stuff and you just get that little pop when the book comes out on a Wednesday, and then it's in print for a while and people will buy it and bring it to you. But with crowdfunding, it's actually the inverse. Like my gut instinct to overshare actually builds the product and the brand and the marketing. And I did that for about a year before. I mean, I'm sure that's how you eventually saw it, Jordan, online. And I kept saying Axe Wielder John, Axe Wielder John, didn't have a home for it. And you guys were smart enough to, you guys were clever enough
to reach out.
I mean, stroke my ego early. So that worked out well, right?
Well, I will say, if I could cut you off for just a second, you did something that we see is very rare in that, talking about that I don't even want to call it oversharing. I think what you did really got people excited and to sort of like a fever pitch, like foaming at the mouth, waiting for this book to come out. So I don't think that there is such thing as oversharing, contrary to maybe what the publishers think. But like when it comes to stuff like this, you were incredibly smart. You would show, a panel, a portion of a panel, pencils, inks, like unfinished work. But like I feel like it intrigued people, and it doesn't hurt that your art is incredible, my friend. So, take that too. But like,
I think that's an advantage for sure. Like I draw with a lot of detail, and I've always been fortunate in that because I draw with a lot of detail, the Jeff Darrow, Frank Quietly, Mobius style. Whenever I've gone to get work or like go get portfolio reviews when I was younger, people would have that instant like, whoa, what is this? After looking at a sea of portfolios, I would get that reaction. And so like it does matter, like get the best. If you're a writer, get the best artist you can find. If you're an artist, do your best work. Like I didn't just settle on the fact that I've worked at Marvel or DC or Image. I said, I'm going to draw these pages 3 times bigger, knowing that it makes my thing weird, right? It's like that's the guy who's drawing it 3 times bigger than the pages should be. Like each panel with Axe Wielder was on its own board. And now all those things give your brand or your book or whatever you're doing an identity. I'm not telling you to strip naked and take selfies with your comics or whatever. That's the Naked Guy comic, but find the gift, right? Like find the thing. And really, I want it to do my best work. If I was going to venture out on my own, I want it to do 3 times better than I'd ever drawn. If I was going to do all this intricate work for freelance for a one-off gig or a one-off page rate, why wouldn't I do it for myself when I'm going to really do this for me? And I always had to remind myself of that. So like doing your best work is a general advice that Frank Quietly actually gave me a long time ago. And I think if you're doing that, you're always beating yourself. You're always better than you were the day before. And you're not in a competition with everybody else. You're in a competition with yourself. And like if you're a writer or if you're an artist in comics, like here's my pitch to you guys. You can get all the money. You can get all the money for yourself instead of splitting it with a writer. And I'm going to break this down for you. If you're nervous about writing comics, Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, Robert Kirkman, Brian Michael Bendis, Rick Remender, Donnie Cates, all the big writers for forever. I just listened to a podcast with another one. It's like 10 more famous writers in comics. They have one thing in common. You know what that is, Jordan?
They were all trying to be artists?
They're all failed comic book artists. So if you're a comic book artist, you're just those guys. You're just all those guys with a little less quit in you. So you could do it too, baby. They're all failed comic book artists. So why not venture out and use the branding of your Marvel work or whatever? Find a passion project that you've been wanting to do in your sketchbook, that hero that's there. For me, it showed up when my kid got sick and it was just living in my brain, eating away. Why not sit down, find the right editor, find the right story people, and hammer it out? Because no matter what, if you even write a bad story, your art's going to make it a good story. If you write a good story, your art's going to make it a great story. If you write a great story, your art's going to make it an all-time great story, which is what I'm hoping to make Axe Wielder. So, and if any of those people out there hear this podcast, are welcome to reach out to me. Like I'm excited. I want no part of your anything. I want no money. I want no nothing. But I would love more awesome professional artists to come on board and jump on the ship with me, and I'll teach them everything I've learned, and I think it's about banging the drum for yourself and taking the reins of your career and deciding what you're going to do. And you can be let's say the 4,500 person to draw Spider-Man, or you can be the first person to draw Hellboy, or the first person to draw Madman, or the first person to draw the Goon, or Shaolin Cowboy, or Axe Wielder John. Like, how are you really going to separate yourself from the pack? You're going to be forgotten from time, and God knows those publishers don't treat the old versions of us right. I think it's time to step up and do your own thing. And I can't say that enough over and over again enough to people and stress that enough. So
Nick, I mean, you're dropping some huge gems on people who are listening to this right now. I just want to take a second though and say hi to Ruji Bofil. I don't know if that's a fan of yours that you know, Nick, but they're in the chat saying,
yeah,
finally.
she's our color. She's amazing. She's our flatter. We gave her the credit of and on my stuff, if I draw it 3 times up and I shrink it down, the lines are so thin. And I think the flatter does, so much work for us. And she's just a really hard worker. She works with Jose Villarubio, the legendary colorist, and Villarubia. And when we were having color problems and flatter problems and stuff, he's like, "Hey, use my girl." And so we
That's awesome.
sent her our way, and she ended up doing almost all of John for us, and really stepped up. And so I really appreciate her. She's really great.
Shout out to Ruji. So if
She'll
you're looking
probably knowing her though, like I would only give her this much attention because she will send 30 more messages. So.
Well, look, you've said you really imparted just so much wisdom in the past few minutes to people who are listening. And now, granted, not everybody has the resume that you have behind them, but I think it's still all of it still applies to people who are, excuse me, maybe not at the level you're at. I kind of want to talk about sort of like the business side of things for you because, look, you're writing this book. You're drawing this book, but you were smart enough to surround yourself with a team of people to fill in the gaps where you maybe weren't going to be able to edit the book. You got Chris Stevens on there. You weren't able maybe to design the book, and we could discuss that. And then we got to go into Kuroshi Comics and how Axe-Wielder John is really just the tip of the spear in your much larger vision.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Like I can get to the property itself. So I want an avatar for me, just like when you say, and anyway, we got another message, but it's fine. But so like with the property of Axe-Wielder, I want an avatar that represents me without having to say me. You think Hellboy, you have Magnola. I know that's a lofty goal, but I'm going to shoot high, and if I fall short, oh well. Madman, you think Allred. I want someone to see Axe-Wielder John and see that scar and that broken mustache and think, oh, that's that insane Nick Pitarra guy, right? And so like branding, so my character isn't just something I can sell on a Wednesday one time every couple of years. It's now a character that lives in your head that represents me, right? So that was the first thing. The next thing was getting.
I would say mission accomplished. By the way, the book hasn't even come out. Book hasn't even come out yet, but mission accomplished so far.
Yeah, and then so that was big. That was big, and then and then finding the right people. Like Zoop reached out, and Zoop, there's a hole in that market that Jordan and Eric were smart enough to see where they knew guys like me don't want to do all the stuff that they can possibly do. So when they create Zoop and you've got a team behind you. You got to pay for their services. Got to sign a contract and figure all that out. Be a man, look at it, and
we own you now.
do your thing, But so make that right decision for yourself, and then if you're worried about story, find a good story editor. If you're worried about design work, you can't do it, then hire somebody, and then you can be like, well, I can't afford it. Well, you could because you could do some commissions that we're all getting pretty good money on these days, and do 2 more a week and save up and pay those guys because they're worth it. And then for me, there was 3 legs to this. There's the front-facing crowdfunding model, and with going with Zoop, I did have the offer to go to Kickstarter as well. But Zoop, 1, they came first, and 2, they just were willing to work with me way more. And being able to talk to them, negotiate what I needed, and being hands-on with them, it was an easy decision. And I did. I'll tell you, Jordan. Other people said you're crazy if you don't go with Kickstarter. They told me that, and I was like, nah, can't do it. Not going to do it. And that's another thing too. None of these things are successful, even if Jordan and everyone drums it up every day for you. You've got to do it yourself. If you're going to be your own creator and your own publisher, it's your responsibility to drum it up. If you go to Image, it's your responsibility. If you go to Dark Horse, it's your responsibility. It's going to be on you. I think Mobius has this quote that Chris Stevens always tells me. He's like, you can be with any publisher you want, but it's the creators that got to push it. And so a big part of that, you can rely on these guys to do some of it, but you can't be in a little turtled up introvert shell. And if you are, then throw a scarf on and put a beret on and seem like you're artsy about it. Like do something to sell yourself more than being a quiet introvert, you know, because if you want people to buy this thing and you believe in it, and that's the thing too, is you got to believe in it. Like don't make something just because you think you can make a quick buck. Make the thing that you've been wanting to make your whole life, that you've been training for your whole life to make, and do it. And then with me, with AX-WIELDER, it was like, I'm going to use Zoop, you know, privately, and it's going to be publicly, but it's fine. Like there's still that big market that you don't get in crowdfunding. Like you can't get the international distribution. You can't get the translators. Well, I'm going to eventually have that deal set up. So I've got two legs, and then the original art part, like making my art really big and really intricate. I've got three legs around this property. That's a pretty good pyramid for it not to fail. One of those legs can go away and it can still stand. Just the Zoop leg can stand and I'll be doing good. But if I can get all three of those, and then if I can get other creatives around me, and this is my pitch to other creatives, if you came on here under the Kuroshi label and I take nothing from you, and then I look better and your fan base might check out my stuff, my fan base might check out your stuff, and what did we lose? So many people are so scared to share and figure out like what they want to do. A lot of these people just like, it's mine. It's not a shrinking pie, you know, it's an infinite world that you can reach around and sell to. And I don't know, like it'll be an individual creator thing, but they're welcome to reach out to me and I'll yap at them some more. So with that, I have that, the Kuroshi brand, Chris Stevens, the editor, overseeing it. And then I'm going to eventually get my own label somewhere, and I'm going to keep doing these beautiful oversized hardcovers with you guys at Zoop. And eventually, you know, we've got like merchandise, toys, all that stuff in the works that are a year or 2 years out that we've got planned. And that's what I'm doing, you know, just putting everything I have into it, and I'm taking it very seriously and working very hard. So I couldn't recommend it enough. And I love, you know, like for me, I love comic shops. And I guess the crowdfunding model has this point of contention, right? Like, are we cutting out the shops? I don't think it's the same thing. I think, and if you give shops the same deal, 20% off in sketches and remarks and the things we offered with AX-WIELDER,
that was 50% off, my man. So
yeah. No, that's kind of like the standard. That's what they probably get from Diamond. So beat Diamond. Then beat Diamond. And guess what? And I don't know anyone else that sold 102 boxes. That's 510 copies just to shops, not including the 1,200, 1,300 we've sold to individuals around the world. And so I just think that if you're willing and you can do those sketches, are you so like arrogant not to sit and do those sketches? Are you so like you're too precious to sit down and do signatures? You do them at a show for free anyway, so why wouldn't you move it? And what I've seen is I've had some big creators reach out and they say they're scared to fail. And I was scared to fail too, but I'm also going to make sure that I'm putting as much structure into it to win. You know, I'm going to think about it as much as I can. As much as I think about a page and the time I spend on the page or 10 pages, I'm going to think about what's the best way to do this. And I might come up with something and, you know,
Nick.
Jordan's like, absolutely not.
Wait, sorry. Hold on. Sorry to cut off the momentum here. Just tap your microphone wherever you see your microphone. We're getting a little static. Static or something.
Let me try this headset again and see if it works better.
Sure. While you're plugging that in, though, I mean, like for people who are listening to all this, you are getting literal gold here. You know, Nick's right. You have to beat your own drum. Like even like Zoop, Kickstarter, anywhere that you go to actually crowdfund, we can support. But it really all comes down to the existing fan base. You know, you're not right nowadays. You're not just a writer. You're not just an artist. You're an entrepreneur. You have to get out there and network and market and promote yourself. And to Nick's point, if that's not you, either, you know, you may have to make that transformation or surround yourself with the people that can do that for you. Yeah, Nick, can we get a test? Test.
Is that working?
Oh man, there's something up with your microphone, man. It was cutting in and out before, but now we're just in the bad zone.
All right. Better now. Still terrible?
Unfortunately, yeah. Just bang on your computer for a second.
Is that better or no?
We're still getting it. Chance, are you there? Do you have anything any tips?
I got a brand new iMac and everything, and this ain't working. I'm so sad. Was it like this the whole time or just recently?
It was cutting in and out, but now it's like just the standard, like garbled kind of thing. We could hear you. It's just a little messed up, is all. Just a mic issue on your end is what we're seeing here. Look, we'll keep going because we can hear you. We're just gonna have to power through, my friend. But I mean, to your point, you have so much going on. The book is just about to come out. Give people a little bit more, about the book in particular, because everything that you're saying is, in my opinion, right on the money as an entrepreneur, as a freelancer, as someone who has to go out and like promote for themselves. But let's talk about the book. We're here actually to promote the book. It's live right now, zoop.gg/c/AX-WIELDER JON. We reopened it. We've already added thousands of dollars to the tally. There's a QR code that just popped up on the screen. If you're listening to the podcast, that link is in the show notes. Click it, check it out right now. But tell us a little bit about, the thing that intrigues me, and you touched on it, but you haven't really shared too much more, and feel free not to if it's too personal, but I know that this was, like you mentioned, this was a reaction to feeling helpless when your daughter was in the hospital. And for not to sound overly cheesy, but Axe-Wielder was kind of like the hero that you needed at the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Am I too terrible to go on this rant or no?
No, go for it.
Yeah, so like my daughter had like a stomach blockage, and she was 9 days old. She ended up losing some of her intestines, getting a colostomy bag, that whole thing. She had corrective surgeries. She's good now, but she's got little issues. So like during that time, we had to live at the Ronald McDonald House, and when we did, I would bring my sketchbook in, and I started doodling this guy, this big bulky hero. And there's more to him than just being a scarred up guy. But there was something about me where, I like to arm wrestle. I was ranked 8th in the heavyweight class and super heavyweight class in Texas. And something about having this kid that was hurt was like, took me down a peg. My invincibility was down. And I thought it was funny when I started drawing this guy with a mustache, which is to me hypermasculinity, and was cutting it in half, right? It was kind of like a sight gag. I gave him axes, and I thought I want people to be attracted to this ugly character. And to me, an axe looked like a hook. And if I wanted to catch readers like me, I was going to make a visual hook in the way that Alan Moore says to spell is just to spell. Well, to draw them to me, I'm just going to draw these axes with blood on the lure and guts. And that would attract someone like me. So to draw is to draw them to me in that magical thinking way. And so I had him, and he kind of sat around, and I had an idea for his story. And eventually I started developing that story. And when I knew that I was going to do it no matter what, I absolutely attacked it 100%. I started drawing the pages, started writing the story. I started showing the art right away. And I showed it off for a year while it was in post-production, while it was going. So you got to pull that one off.
Wait, Chance, go back to that first image.
No, don't go back to that first image. Don't.
Why? I wanted to ask who that was.
Spoiler alert.
Oh,
Spoiler
sorry.
alert. Yeah.
Chance, you were supposed to choose non-spoilery images, my friend. Come on now.
It's all good. But it is kind of like that thing. So so that's a good one to leave on. So like it's kind of like it is what it is. It's a personal story. He's a character that I'm going to keep. I'm going to work on him for the next. I'm going to work it for the next 10 years of my life. Building this guy, and then this is a good thing. These pinups is a good tangent to go on. I realized that YouTube podcasts were bigger. I mean, the other coverage sites, the static text sites are fine, but the YouTube crowd gets a lot of buzz. And I realized I needed to reach out, and I was already like on the Patreon of many of those people supporting them when I thought they were doing good stuff. And they were kind enough, like Comic Tropes, just so many great podcasts had me on to promote the thing. Right. So I got to keep promoting it and make this passionate pitch to the people. And it's a lot different when it's just a static thing. You don't know who that character is. It's just a crowdfunding campaign. But if I can get on here and tell you why I love this character and what I have planned for it, and you can feel some of my manic energy that makes my wife go nuts half the time. Like that is a sellable commodity in the crowdfunding space, and then endearing yourself to the reader and letting them know what it's everything I've told you is essentially you're listening to me manipulate you in a way, right? This guy's telling me a sad story about his kid. He's manipulating me. He's got a business plan, but all that is real. And so on top of that, I'm telling you what I'm doing, but I think I'm not full of crap either. And then even if you think I am, then look at the art. Like I'm not lying. It is drawn pretty well, right?
We're delivering, baby. We're delivering.
So
Nobody's full of crap here.
no, but I mean like but like what I mean is like sell your story on why you're gonna venture out on your own. Why this is a sketchbook. I've thought about this guy for 20 years. I know he can be incredible with your support. And really it is the fans, like the people that back this book are the reason why John's gonna exist. In a sense, they're money is currency. Currency, electricity is a current. You're feeding it energy. You're throwing fuel into the fire, and you're helping rise this guy out of the ether and manifest him into this world with your support. Like you're in a way, part of the production and part of the creation of this because without that financing, we like these products wouldn't exist. And that's with every product and all consumerism. But but
But
you get to be
that's really it for crowdfunding, though. If the people are a part of the creation
Yeah,
of this. Yeah.
this thing is an action figure later, and what we have planned, knock on wood, gets to where it's supposed to be. You're going to be like, I was there ground one. I listened to Elliott Smith first. You know what I mean?
For
Like,
sure.
you're going to get to do that thing. And your money's going right to the creators. It's going right into the production of the book. The book looks that much better. These things, like all of that matters. That financing matters. And I don't know. There's just something really cool about it. And to me, I look at the crowdfunding space and I see nothing but potential. It's the Wild West. Anything goes. Anything I've said, you get to steal and do it your own way. Anything you steal off me, I'm gonna steal off you next time if you do something that works. Like there is no rules beyond you've got to promote yourself and you've got to outthink everybody. But at least you get to decide. And I really like having the ball in my court, in my hands, and getting to creatively think with Zoop and Eric and Jordan and Chris Stevens and my wife privately and my Felix, my art rep. We get to game plan this stuff and really figure out how to make the best book possible, number one, but to figure out how to build a brand and to build a advertising campaign. And I did lots of stuff even before Zoop. Like if I saw a tweet taken off or really an Instagram post taken off, because the increments on Instagram, you can do like $2. And let's say if I had 400 likes, I'm like, that's like 4 times more than my usual likes. I'll throw $2 at that and get it up to 1,600 likes, right? So I would do little things like that, $2 to $3 here. Don't drink my coffee that day, and like spike this thing. And to me, the money's gone. It's no big deal, but it made it even bigger, right? It got me more followers and it got me more people like, what is this thing? And then getting your people, if it is an impressive piece of work, you're going to get people to reshare it. Like I was really fortunate to get Bill Sienkiewicz and Jeff Darrow and Jay Lee and Frank Quietly and all these people that I revere and I think are masters. They look down and they're like, oh, that guy that won't leave us alone, he's doing good work, and they give me a reshare or a retweet. And that matters. And I know not everyone can bank on that, but I bet if you friended the right person at Kuroshi Comics, he could reshare it to the people that have already shared my stuff, right? Like, I just feel like if we all used our net and didn't just sit there with a little spoon and we all connected our net, man, we'd have all the power. Like the creatives can get all the power back. And I think that matters.
In time, man, I feel like this is an incremental kind of thing. And like you said, it's still the Wild West. So everyone's still figuring it out. I do love the idea of bringing multiple people together. Maybe Kuroshi is going to be that entity that kind of spearheads, that. John, itself, like this book, I think we're at like 160 something pages. This is basically a self-contained story, but can you share a little bit more about just the publishing plans for John?
Yeah, so the painter Das Pastoras is back on to do volumes 2 and 3, the epilogues in 2 and 3. It's 5 oversized 168-page books, possibly 6. I'm going to tell his whole story. I've already got the covers done for the first actually 6 volumes. One, maybe we don't do that volume, maybe we do. Just kind of, it's like a story that shows that I knew the ending and every character's motive from the very beginning. But one, it won't feature one possibly won't feature John, which is kind of weird to call him an Axe-Wielder John book, maybe a side story. But it's a whole thing. It's going to be like 10 years worth of work for me, and I plan on using, now that I think I've turned 40. I'm kind of entering, I think, the best I'm drawing, and I probably got a good 10, 15 years of that. I'm going to use my prime to make a character that's going to matter. And that's my goal, like I didn't, all this was training. And there's this thing in John too, where a lot of what's going on in my life, I put into the story of John. It's kind of an allegory for what's going on, but there's this point where he's this killer and he's doing all this awful stuff and he gets sent. He basically gets offered what he sees as a chance to take all of the things he's done that's bad, all the killing, and he thinks the gods are telling him, all right, you know what you're up against, you know what these things you need to protect are up against. Now go kill for a reason. And he gets the green light to do what he's always done, but for the right reason. And for me,
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
look at everything I've learned in the industry with publishing or editors or everything I've learned, and like, all right, artist, you think you're an artist, you're just drawing fill-in issues or whatever. Like, now go out and say something. You have something to say, you have some life experience. All right, Nick, go say something. And to me, I kind of had that conversation with God, the ether, the universe, whatever you want to call them. And I was going to say, okay, I'm going to write and draw, and I got something to say. If I think I can do things better, or I can draw better, or I can write better than some of these scripts I'm seeing, then I'm gonna prove it to myself, or I'll fall on my face trying. And that's exactly how I felt. And then when what I said earlier, all of the best writers in comics, they're all failed cartoonists. So that gave me hope that I could at least be okay, And if you want it to launch your writing career, the one thing you have to do in comics, if you just want to be a writer, is find a great artist. Every great artist already has that person. They just got to look in the mirror and it's them. To me, that's an easy bet. And you make double the money. You own, and so many of these writers now, some of them take more than 50%, which I find to be, I'll just be honest, I find it to be a joke. We're doing 90% of the labor and the lighting and the drawing and the character acting and the designs, and the book is drawn. And I love writers in comics. I've got, God knows they've made me a lot of money. Jonathan Hickman, thank you very much. But like, some of these guys are taking more than 50%. No, I think you'll just get 0%. I'll just draw it myself. This is how I feel about it.
So
Is that too spicy or no?
no, I love it. I did, dude. You're telling the truth. I mean, you're sharing your experience. This is what people need to hear. I want to ask though, do you feel sort of like, now that you've had this massive success with John and sort of like, prove the naysayers wrong, do you feel sort of like a poster boy for like what's possible in the world of crowdfunding, and B, do you feel like pressure now as that guy?
I feel no pressure. I like Jack Kirby has this quote where pressure is good. Like, all a man has in this industry is pressure. I got pressure now that I got 2 kids and I got a mortgage and I got
There
a
you go.
wife. I got my
Yep.
pressure. I can rah you on all you want. And my art rep Felix has heard some of these podcasts and he's like, you can't tell everyone to do it because they can't do it. And I'm like, dude, give me a Paul Pope, give me a Trad Moore, give me a James Heron, and let me be their mouthpiece. And if I made 200, they'd make 400. Let's go. And Felix is like, you can't tell them that because you can't promise that. And I'm like, dude, somebody needs to be hyping these artists up like they deserve to be hyped up. Uh, and honestly, they're doing incredible work. Some of these young cartoons doing incredible work, and they gotta wait on Marvel to get him a script or something. Get out of here, dude. Like, make your Hellboy, James. I mean, James doing it with his Ultra Mega, but like Trad or all these guys, there's so many.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of the Felix guys, a lot of the Inky Knuckle guys, I really love.
Sure.
You know, you guys did the Matt
Yeah,
Levy book.
shout out to Cam.
Yeah. There's so many. Yeah, I love that guy. And it's just like there's like he's collecting some great artists, and I'm like, man, just keep betting on yourself. And every customer you have that you don't tick off, and you deliver a great product, if you like, they're potentially also an advertiser for you. Because when I love a book, I tell everybody about it. You know, and that email list doesn't shrink; it only grows. That following on Facebook, or that following on Twitter, or that following on YouTube, which I don't have yet. I got to start doing that. But that doesn't shrink if you invest in it. So invest in yourself. And I've got to listen to my own advice there, because I was really reliant, and I'm really grateful to all the people who did build those audiences up that allowed me to pitch John to them. So I can never thank all those podcasters and YouTubers enough for that.
For sure, man. And yeah, look, Matt Lesniewski he's another great example. It wasn't an axe wielder John type of story, but I mean, Nick, you have a work ethic, and this is, I shouldn't even say that because Matt busted his ass as well, but like the work ethic that you put in, and like you said, all the drawings that you were doing, you know, the remarks in, it'll kill you, but you'll survive, if you know what I mean. You know, doing 500 remarks for retailers essentially, which is nuts, on top of signatures and everything else like that.
But why? But like, you got an advantage. Like
Yeah.
if I'm starting my own company, and crowdfunding allows me to do this, why wouldn't I use everything I had in my toolkit?
Absolutely.
The only thing that's stopping me is you guys. You can't do thousands.
Well, we're concerned that you're going to just like break yourself.
I'm going to karoshi myself.
Yeah, dude.
By the way, you know, Japanese karoshi is death from overwork. So, you know,
Yeah.
that was I was going to do this or die trying. And that's why I picked the name for that company. The imprint. So
not only did you not die, but you're completely thriving. I know you have a lot of big stuff in the works for John that you've alluded to right now. I guess, you know, the book is going to be going to print real soon. I think we just finalized the order for print, or I should say finalized the specs and everything like that. Waiting for the final print run is why we have the campaign open right now. zoop.gg/c/AX-WIELDER JON. Link is in the show notes if you're listening to the audio podcast. QR code right there up on the screen right now. Nick, you and I at this point, so it's funny because like I've been doing this, maybe this is episode 11, I think. And most of the people that we have on the show are in the same situation as you. You know, we're handling a lot of stuff for them, but I haven't known them as long as you because we've been working on this together for quite a while now. Not just, you know, since the campaign ended, but we were talking for months even before the campaign started. So, one thing, I have a feeling I know what the answer is going to be, but two questions I ask everybody before we kind of get out of here is, first, who would be your dream collaborator?
I mean, obviously Frank Quietly would be big, but I wouldn't want to. It'd be insulting to work with him because I would want to see what he did on his own. I want him to write and draw his own stuff. Yeah, I wouldn't want to write something for him, and I wouldn't want to mess up anything he wrote with my crappy drawing. So I wouldn't do that. A dream collaborator, a goal of mine was to combine Brian K. Vaughan writing. I think he's probably the best. You get his characters like this, and they're all very grounded. They feel like they've lived off the page. As soon as you read them, that he knows they've lived in his head, and therefore off the page. When you see them, they don't feel like stand-ins. And then like Frank Quietly. So if I can be a watered down Brian K. Vaughan and a watered down Frank Quietly and make original characters that are fun, I think I'm in good shape. So I like those two guys a lot. I don't know if I'm really interested in collaborating with anyone anymore. I'm interested in my own imprint and my own characters.
Yeah.
People had the chance to collaborate with me for a long time. So if they wanted to, they would have reached out when if they were open to it. I don't know. There's a lot of guys. There's more so than that. I would love to help out other artists figure this out too, and combine our powers to, Power Ranger style to make a big mechanical dinosaur and take over this thing. I'd feel more pride in that than I would split and pay and and really when you split pay in comics these days, when they make those omnibus collections, they don't list the artist names. That's the so-and-so. It's the writer's collection. And I don't know. Let's make our own characters and put our names on them. That's how I feel about it.
Well, and like I love the entire answer, and you know that we're here to help support you. So if you're rallying the troops, if you are getting, the James Herons and the Paul Popes and Daniel Warren Johnsons and everyone else like that,
It's so hard to get them to bet on themselves, man. Like I've talked to so
but
many.
you've proven it out though, man. Like,
No, but they're like, it's so much work. It's so much. It's not work. Like, don't you love talking about yourself? It's a blessing. Like I get
don't
to
you want to be
bother
in
people.
and be in business for yourself, right? Like that's it, Nick.
I
Like
mean,
you have no one to answer to.
Daniel's a great example, and he's got it set at image and stuff. But if he took what he's done right now, and he came to Zoot, and he'd let me yell at him for like 2 hours on the phone, he would come in and triple. Like he would come in and triple what AX-WIELDER did. If Paul Pope decided to do his next book, or whoever else, Chris Stevens knows a lot of guys.
Sure,
So
sure.
his Rolodex is deep. But if you give me one of those names or give Chris one of those names and let you guys do your thing, and it's not a sure thing, but it ain't a losing thing. It's not a losing thing. You're going to do at least as good, especially if you structure in with Felix and sell your art in the campaign and figure it out. Like you can make it happen, and you can make it a winner. But I'm most excited for people to read. Like some people haven't read the PDF because they want to wait for the physical copy, but I'm excited for people to read my writing for the first time. I'm more excited about that than anything else. Like to read the book and see what my intent was, and and see if you like the writing. Like I'm more. That's all new territory for me and a lot of fun. Like I know people who like my art will like my art. I don't take that for granted, but art's just a lot of work, and the writing is a little more magical to me at this point. I'm really excited when I'm getting early reviews or reshares and talking about the story. That means a lot to me because, you have these things in your head and in your heart, and you put them on the page, but you don't know there's that space between the page and the reader. Are they getting the thing that you were putting in from your head to your hand to the page? Is it reading? Is it reading, right?
Sure.
And I think it's reading right now based on, I'll send you when we're done. Frank quietly wrote me an email because he read it, and it's a very dear email to me. Made my wife cry when she read it. So,
Wow. That's
yeah. Better than an Eisner. So,
well, maybe 2 for 2, my friend. You never know.
yeah.
Final question I have for you is, what is your desert island run? If you were stuck on a desert island, what's that one book or one run of books that you would have to have with you?
Ooh, man. I can't pick one of anything. I think for India, I'll give you my base example. Manga is Pluto Urasawa. That's 6, 7, 8 volumes, and it's the best. He kind of Americanized it, and that's great. If you're going indie, it's Jason, and the story is called "I Killed Off Adolf Hitler." He draws the dog face and the cat face, the animal face people. He's this Norwegian cartoonist. He's fantastic.
Oh no.
He's great. American comics. If I was going to hand a book out to someone who I wanted to get into comics, it would be Saga.
Sure.
Like generically fantastic. Not generic at all, but like my wife loves Saga.
Yeah.
And you can just hand it to anyone. For me personally, man, I don't know if I have a personal. Mine's so art based that the stories aren't.
No,
always
dude, look, these were great pulls. Great pulls. I never would have expected. I didn't realize like how far and wide your tastes go. So I feel like that's a whole other podcast.
Like I want to pick a Frank Quietly story that I love. Flex Mentallo is like a personal story, and in Flex, Wally Sage draws Flex at the beginning, and then Flex manifests and says, "Trade you a stamp or whatever, and be a man." And he's this big hairy man, and I felt like with me, AX-WIELDER did that thing, right? Like he's this character I've invested in, and now he's providing, like taking care of me. He's like providing for my family, right? Keeps the lights on, and like he showed up when I needed a hero most. So I can say, "Oh, that's just corny talk," or I can be like, you know what? This came from the ether, the imagination scape. It floated down here in the material world. I'm going to make this guy, and I'm going to make him work for me, and I'm going to put him to work. And like I took that like oath or that promise to the universe very seriously, and I I wasn't going to take no for an answer, and I wasn't going to like. I had it in my head that I was going to make this work no matter what. And what I did was I looked at, oh, Chris Stevens is my editor, but Chris Stevens was a madman for like 10 years in comics. Before he sobered up, he was a madman. He was a wild man, right? But he had sent these mean emails, and I'm like, who is this guy? Well, I mean, this is Chris. He's fine with it. But he was no nonsense, and he loved story and comics as much as I did. And I was like, man, if I'm going to make this book, I need someone that can tell it to me straight. And 90% of everyone else would have been like, I'm never working with this guy. And I was like, you know what? That guy who cursed me out in my Facebook messages, I'm gonna write him. And I said, Chris, you want some Eisners? I'm Eisner nominated. I'm gonna venture out and write this story. Come along with me. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And then and I said, okay. Zoop showed up, and Zoop offers a lot of the stuff that I've got trepidation about, but they're willing to do it. Okay. The universe plopped them there in front of me. I take that. AX-WIELDER showed up. I use him. This showed up. I did this. And I kind of tried to use my intellect, whatever minimal intellect I have, and whatever stones were in front of me to cross the river. But I was going to get across the river no matter what, and just figure it out. And it's such a fun game to figure it out and to call the shots, like that. That feels so good you don't have to worry about, I pay Chris Stevens, so he can only tell me so much at the end of the day.
Well, look, man, you've crossed the river. You've done it. You're continuing to do it. It's only going to get better and bigger as you go on. I mean, you're blazing a new path, and we're happy to be a part of that with you, man. That's why we do what we do. I mean, it's a great feeling to see the success of AX-WIELDER John, and for you, personally. So, really, I'm excited to see where it continues to go, what comes next. Tell people where they can find you online. I'm
Nick Pitarra at all platforms. And then I did buy the URL axwielder.com just to make it easier than the // and I looped it to my campaign page. So that's the easiest way for me when I link the thing. Zoop is always going to be the hardcover home of my book, and so go to Zoop, AX-WIELDER, you look it up, hashtag, you'll find all the posts and all the art. The book's complete. It's 168 pages plus tip-in sheets and stuff, so it's like 174 pages. It's got everything. It's got my lifeblood in it, man. It's got the story that came to me when I needed a hero most. It's all the pages were drawn like 3 feet tall, with the smallest pens, 0.003 microns. I think it's written pretty well. I know it's drawn with a lot of detail, whether you think that's good or not. I put everything I had into it, and I'm excited for the next volume because that one's going to be even better. So, and it's just the start. I haven't crossed the river yet. Like, I feel like that was the first stone or the first couple stones, but we're going to get all the way across this thing, and John's going to carry me. And the way I look at it is he's cutting the path for me. So, and if you're a creator, especially an artist who's scared to write, man, reach out, and I'll put you in the touch with people I know and the people at Zoop, and form a game plan with you. And if not, yell at you for a couple hours on the phone and something to do.
He really will. But Nick, thanks so much for making the time, man. For everybody listening and watching, again, get this book. It is your last chance right now. zoop.gg/c/AX-WIELDER John. The QR code just came up on the screen. If you're listening to the audio podcast, check out the link in the show notes. You could find us at We Are Zoop across all socials. If you want to drop us an email, it's hello@wearezoop.com. Go get this book. Support Nick Pitarra. Support Kuroshi Comics. And we'll catch you next time.